Fedecocagua is a phenomenon that arose in the historical context of the first agricultural cooperatives of small coffee producers in Guatemala. In the mid-1960s, the small producers of 19 cooperatives joined together to commercialize their coffee without intermediaries and to seek funding and technical assistance which were otherwise inaccessible to them at the time. The initiative was created to avoid the bad prices that small producers received from transnational and private companies engaged in coffee export under the International Coffee Organization's quota system. Fedecocagua is the instrument created by cooperatives of small producers to market their coffee and participate in this link of the production chain that was previously the privilege of only a few. It is a model second-order cooperative organization representing the right way of social development in contrast to self-defeating welfare and crony capitalism. The Federation was spontaneously created due to the poor economic conditions of small producers and has been a source of community development for more than 45 years. While the concept of sustainability was not yet in vogue and was little talked about in Latin America, Fedecocagua already had programs in this area. Since its formation, small producers have worked with the international community on development projects in the rural areas of the country. This group of entrepreneurial cooperative members have been pioneers in the areas of social, corporate responsibility, and sustainable development since Fedecocagua's founding in 1969. The small producers who founded Fedecocagua sought to become the masters of their own destiny when they realized that under the existing national and international coffee trade structure, they were condemned to live in eternal misery. They understood that only if they were organized would they have the opportunity to build a better future for themselves and for their families. From the outset, this was a challenge. When they attempted to market their coffee abroad, the small producers were held back by large existing exporters who dominated the industry. Limits came initially not on volume, but in artificially high prices designed to make small competitors uncompetitive. When on March 26, 1969, the National Coffee Association, ANACAFE, significantly cut the export quota for the cooperatives, the Federation of Coffee Cooperatives of Guatemala, Fedecocagua, was created in direct response. The new organization would advocate for and support small producers, helping them commercialize their product, provide training in production and access to credit, market intelligence, and support in negotiations, and help them to defend their right to participate in the country's economy on an equal footing. Fedecocagua broke existing paradigms and, against all odds, made its first direct coffee export in 1973. The first 3 containers were shipped to the Netherlands under what was then a new initiative called Fair Trade. Those first shipments were from cooperatives that are still in existence today and are still part of the Coffee Federation. After intense negotiations, in 1976 Fedecocagua obtained its own export license, becoming a producer-exporter of its members' coffee. Today, this position allows other producers to benefit from all the services along the chain and improve their income for their own development. However, Fedecocagua lived in several variations as falling prices in the 1970s, the earthquake of 1976, and the internal armed conflict of the 1980s all took their toll. During that conflict, cooperatism suffered the brunt of repression in rural communities. A number of members of the cooperatives associated with Fedecocagua actually lost their lives, especially in the western part of the country, because the military deemed cooperatives to be subversive organizations, while at the same time rebel guerrillas persecuted them for being private sector entrepreneurs. After the quota system finally ended in July 1989, world coffee was freed and Fedecocagua could finally compete under better conditions, because previously the shares of export for each sector was determined by a group of large exporting producers in the National Coffee Association. Over the past 3 decades, Fedecocagua has developed into a critical support organization for small producers in Guatemala. When the crisis in coffee prices occurred at the beginning of the century, it provided an effective financial umbrella for its affiliates. It's a shareholder in the Rural Development Bank, which facilitates the financing of its business operations and the export of members' coffee to more than 20 countries. This progress has obviously affected the interests of some sectors who refuse to accept the high level of competence of those who had previously been seen as inferior to the existing coffee establishment. There's much work yet to do. Today, the small producers of Fedecocagua struggle for further liberalization of the coffee trade in Guatemala. The law that has governed the industry since the 1960s created the National Coffee Association, a state-sponsored enterprise that the law requires all producers to be members of. It collects a membership fee through an economically inefficient export tax, and it has the discretion to issue licenses to market coffee, along with broad powers to determine which types of coffee can or cannot be exported. The reality of the world trade in coffee has changed, and competitiveness is now the key to prevail in the global marketplace. Fedecocagua believes in these principles, and its associated small producers have demonstrated great progress despite an industry that is often stacked against them. Some international aid coming into Guatemala continues to undermine the achievements of small coffee producers. Aid organizations that often describe themselves as progressive and who have made cooperation a modus vivendi actually make rural communities dependent upon subsidies instead of promoting their development and sustainability. In the same way, under the illusion of productive chains, many seek to destroy the organization of small producers to return to the model of intermediation and place them once again in conditions of dependency. Individually, the small producer is totally defenseless in the global trading system. But organized with others, he can improve his life conditions without sacrificing his identity, without going far from home, without losing his dignity and that of his family and work. That is, he can be the master of his own destiny. Fedecocagua is today the voice of small producers organized in Guatemala. It facilitates access to short, middle, and long-term credits to improve quality and its members' standard of living. Fedecocagua makes decisions through democratic mechanisms, such as monthly meetings of the Executive Council where 2 delegates from each region are periodically elected, or the regional meetings or the large annual assembly of the Federation. With the creation of this instrument, small producers receive technical assistance, training, gender opportunities in the entire organizational structure, and access to projects of international cooperation in decent conditions without impositions. Likewise, the Federation is a tangible demonstration that Guatemalans can undertake, cooperate, and work for a common goal, regardless of ethnicity, gender, or religion. It includes people with different languages, different cultures, and different traditions from all regions of the country. This federation, with more than 45 years of progress, is proof Guatemalans can reach agreement to accomplish goals, and most important, it is concrete proof that they can be masters of their own destiny. The affiliates of Fedecocagua, the staff that makes possible the daily life of this wonderful movement, brings coffee directly to the most prestigious coffee roasters and coffee shops in the world. It is a model worthy of further academic study nationally and globally. The efficiency of the cooperative members in terms of social, economic, and environmental benefits has been validated again and again. As a result, they have qualified for certification of organic coffee, fair trade, AAA of the Nespresso program, Rainforest Alliance, UTZ certified, cafe practices of the Starbucks coffee chain, micro-lots, auctions, single origin, and other sustainability programs. Fedecocagua, voice of the organized small coffee producers of Guatemala.